I've had access to the PS Vita library for a while now via my PlayStation TV that I got a crazy good deal on back in the day at Toys R Us when they were clearancing them out and closing their stores. But this is my first time owning the PS Vita handheld itself, and I can tell you, the games look so much better on that small screen, and overall that experience and premium feel of the console really blows me away for something that came out over 10 years ago. In fact, it's a system that I wish more people would have the opportunity to play, but due to how few the consoles were made compared to something like, say, the Game Boy, they do command a relatively high price in the market yet, despite the system being over 10 years old and having arguably not the largest library in the world, though the homebrew community has helped that out a lot, and the backwards compatibility nature of it with the PSP and PS1 has helped as well. But to shell out $150, maybe $200 for one of these systems, like it seems like a lot of YouTubers do when they talk about buying one on their channel, I want to give you guys an idea of how maybe you could save some money and not spend $150 or $200 on one of these things. And the first thing, quite simply, is to not buy a US model. If you're somebody in the US or Europe and you want to buy your native model, you're probably going to find that it's much more expensive than alternatively buying one from Japan and importing it. Now, there are import fees and things like that you got to take into account, so be sure that you're not going to get taxed too much in your specific country when you import something like this. So take into account, the price of the item when you're importing it, because sometimes there will be additional fees or taxes depending on the value of the item when you import things from other countries. But importing one from Japan is always going to be cheaper. It's the same situation with the PSP. You can get a PSP out of Japan for like $50, and you simply can't do that buying online. And the same can be said about the Vita, which goes for about $120 in pretty decent condition coming out of Japan. But like I said, there may be other fees to watch out for. So, keeping that in mind, there are some differences between the Japanese model and the US model, all of which can be rectified by modding the system. And the first thing is, it's not region locked. You don't need to worry about your games not being compatible. But the big issue is the circle and X button within the menus, because navigating that home screen menu on a Japanese model, even though you can switch it to the English language and it all looks good there, it'll always be that circle is enter and X is back, which is opposite of a traditional North American PSP or PS3 experience where you're used to X being enter and O being back in those menus. It doesn't affect the games. The games will still play with the controls exactly as they are, but navigating that home screen menu can be a little bit of a mind trick if you're not used to using circle to enter and X to go back like they are in the Japanese regions. Now, it's very easy to mod a Vita, and doing so will actually save you a lot of money in my next point, but I just want to say that modding the system is very easy, and there are plenty of great tutorials out there to get you up and running regardless of what firmware you're on. Now, that big kicker for the system back in the day, people allege, is the memory cards. I'm not totally bought into that being the thing that really brought down the system, but the memory cards are expensive, and they continue to be expensive, with like a 32 gigabyte card being something like $50 used on eBay, and at that point, spending $50 for 32 gigs really hampers your ability to have a digital game collection. And if you're going to mod the system, you probably want to have a digital game collection. So what you want to do instead is get a MicroSD card adapter. They had these for the PSP, but on the PSP they were awesome because they were just plug and play, and the system recognized it as a memory card. It's a little bit different on the Vita, where the system won't actually recognize it as a memory card because you have to load it into the cartridge slot of the system. So you can get yourself like 256 gigabyte microSD card for say $30, and that's not only cheaper than the 32 gigabyte Sony proprietary Vita card, but you pop it into that $3 cartridge slot adapter, and you'll be able to get the system with just a massive amount of storage space to fit all of your games on a modded Vita. So you're looking at maybe $30 for 256 gigabyte, add in $3-4 for that adapter. So for about $35 extra dollars, you can get your memory covered. You're well covered. You can get 128 too, but honestly I wouldn't even go there because that's probably like $20. Just spend a little bit extra money, get that 256, and you'll definitely be set for the future to put on all the PSP, PS1, and Vita games that you want to have on this system. And the last point that I want to make that made a price difference for me was not having to buy that Sony proprietary charger, because the PSP 1000 models use a proprietary Sony charger. It's a charger you're not going to have laying around your house. It's only made for the PSP 1000 system. And you're going to have to order this special charger, and it's going to tack on another $8, $10 to your bill. What's easier to do is just buy the PSP 2000 model, which uses really just an old Android charging cable in a micro USB, or maybe it's a mini USB. I'm not really sure. It's the one that came right before the USB-C. So you probably, even if you don't own an Android phone, you probably have one of these cords lying around. In fact, it's the same cord that powers my Fire Stick that's plugged into my TV. So it's definitely a widely available cable that you can pick up for a few bucks at a store if you don't already have one. But the reality is you probably already do have one, and you can charge the Vita that way. Save yourself like $10 by not getting the 1000 model. And I'm sure there's somebody in the comment section reminding us all that the 1000 model has that premium OLED display, but the truth is, I don't want anything to do with that. That can have burn-in, that can have yellowing, that can have other damage that I would just rather avoid. So it's just safer for me to get the LCD traditional screen that is found in the 2000. I know that it doesn't quite look as good, but I think that over long term, it's going to be the better one to hold up, because these screens are very expensive to replace. You don't want to get yourself stuck doing that and being stuck with that bill as well. Now, I will say that when you have the system modded, there are some really cool plugins through the registry editor. You can make a simple change and it will actually enhance the colors of the 2000 screen. Kind of makes it look close to the OLED. It's obviously not, because it's not an OLED screen, but it really makes the colors pop in that same similar way. And just making that simple change to the software can really do a big difference if you're that concerned about the display. And then also, I think it's worth pointing out that if you buy it in a bundle and sell off the things you don't want, that can be a great way to save yourself some money. This is what I did. I bought a system with a memory card and a game. I didn't want the memory card or the game because I planned to use an SD card adapter and an SD card to get much larger storage. I was able to sell the memory card, which again, the memory cards are outrageously expensive. So I mean, even like a 4 gigabyte memory card could be worth like $20 if somebody's throwing it in when they're selling their system. And most of the games, without maybe some of the sports titles like MLB The Show 12 or something like that, most of the games have some decent value. Like we're looking at $10, $20 games minimum. So any games you can get thrown in with your system included, and many of these eBay sellers do that as a lot, and it's not always very clear in the photos. You might have to delve deeper into their postings. Paying another $20 to get a memory card and a game or two versus just buying for the bare minimum price of the console only may end up being cheaper if you're able to sell off the extra things that you get. And of course, you want to incorporate those eBay fees and shipping into your math, and you're trying to figure out if that's really going to be a better deal for you. But there's a potential to make back some of the money you spend on the system if you're able to buy it in a bundle and sell the things you don't want out of the bundle. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Bailey, and I will see you in the next video.